Alright guys, the games in the Championship are coming thick and fast as things stand. In today's video we are here to go ahead and talk over our weekly score predictions. We had a couple of matches going on in midweek as well, all of which will be digested throughout today's video. And as always, I want to get your guys' verdict on everything that is going on in the Championship over this weekend. As always, if you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. But without any further ado, let's hop into the matches. And starting out at Kenilworth Road for Luton up against QPR. This will be a really good test to see where these two sides are at this point in time. QPR absolutely flying at the moment with the current run they find themselves on. Really impressive result over the last weekend as well, beating Reading in the fashion they did, considering they were without Chris Willock for that game as well. Really impressive stuff. And generally speaking, QPR on the road this season have been a really effective side. It's them and Wigan who are currently leading the way with the best away record in the Championship. Luton have been a little bit up and down when it comes to their home matches so far this season. I think there have been a few frustrations with particularly some of the draws they've had at Kenilworth Road this season. You know, thinking back to that 3-3 draw they had with Huddersfield, that 2-2 draw with Coventry as well, how they let that game against Wigan slip against them. But it was a draw last time out for Luton, 0-0 against West Brom. I just think with the way QPR are going at the moment, the teams they've come through, I think they may go ahead and sneak this one on the road. You know, a draw certainly wouldn't surprise me, and Luton turning up on their day will give anyone in the league a good run for their money. But QPR just seem to have that momentum about them at the moment, and I think that at this point of the season that counts for a lot. So score prediction time, I'm just going to edge QPR for a 2-1 away victory there, but should be a good game, that one. Next then to Rotherham up against Huddersfield, a big game in both these sides' seasons. I think it's fair to say if Huddersfield were to win this game, they'd be just 1 point behind Rotherham, and given the disparities in each of these sides' starts to the season, that would be quite a statement of intent from Huddersfield, especially if they were to make it back-to-back wins. Rotherham, who we have seen a slight slide off in the Championship recently, without a win now in their last 4 matches, as they're still sort of getting into the swing of things under their new manager and getting over that sort of heartache from Paul Warne leaving. Huddersfield seem to be getting into the groove under Fotheringham, like some of what I saw from the weekend as they managed to get their way past Hull. What Huddersfield are going to massively need to work on, though, is their away record. They've been pretty hopeless on the road this season, conceded a lot of goals and have lost 4 out of the 5 matches they have played on the road so far. But it just feels like they're starting to build up that little bit of momentum at the right time, and maybe have caught Rotherham at a good time as well. Obviously they were beaten 3-0 by Blackburn last time out, which maybe was a little bit of a harsh scoreline in the end. For a prediction in this one, do you know what? I think I may be edging towards Huddersfield. You know, I just think they've got that little bit of momentum now that's starting to build there, and I'm not sure Rotherham have completely figured themselves out yet. So for a prediction for this one, I'm going to go 2-1 Huddersfield, you know, but I could very much see that one going either way. After that, we go to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Millwall. Bristol City getting back to winning ways in midweek with a 2-1 victory over Preston. Frustrating stuff from a North End fan's point of view. We weren't great in that game, but scoring late on for Bristol City to go on and do one better and score that late when there was a real punch in the gut. But credit to Bristol City, they looked better for that game. Started it out like an absolute house on fire with how much pressure they actually put on our back line. I think we're the deserved winners in the end. Going up against the Millwall side, who have generally struggled to get things going on the road so far this season, this seems like a decent opportunity for Bristol City to be getting back-to-back wins, especially when we consider there's been a bit of news around Millwall recently when it comes to Gary Rowett, who is said to be being considered for the West Brom job at the moment. And you just wonder, with that speculation hanging over his head, will there be a few distracted faces in amongst the Millwall group? Score prediction for this one, I'm going to go 2-1 Bristol City. I see the home side edging it. Next then to Turf Moor for Burnley up against Swansea. This is certainly a game for the football purists. Two heavy possession orientated sides as Vincent Kompany takes on Russell Martin in this one. It's Burnley who average 66% possession, which is more than anyone in the Championship, up against the Swansea side who have averaged 60% possession this season, which is the 3rd most in the Championship. So two sides who are going to look to build out from the back and dominate the ball ball in midfield, and this will be quite an interesting tactical battle between two sides who look to adopt a fairly similar sort of game plan, and two sides who are in a really good run of form at this point in time. Swansea have won their last 4 matches, had more of a goal threat about them recently, looked much more sharp and clinical in the final third. That was a sort of accusation that we maybe threw at them in the first few weeks of the Championship, that they weren't quite that, but they've been looking really good lately. And so Burnley, to be fair, they just don't lose many matches. Only 1 loss for Burnley so far this season, and they're now unbeaten in their last 10 matches. What you can say about Burnley is sometimes they do struggle to kill off matches when they do go 1 goal in front, and up against a Swansea side who are in good form at the moment, I think I can see this one heading towards a draw. So score prediction time, I'm going to go 1-1 between these two here, but yeah, will be a very fascinating battle for the ball. Next then to Cardiff up against Coventry. I have liked the look of this Cardiff squad recently. They've started to go ahead and build up a little bit of momentum. They're now unbeaten across their last 3 matches, back-to-back wins on top of that as well. Like the role that Callum Robinson has had to play in that side as well. I think that he's been gradually sort of added into that side, and I think he's added real quality as well in the final third. Not just for a goal output, but in terms of dropping into those half spaces and creating chances for others as well. I thought that was a really intelligent signing from them at the time, and they probably come into this game as the favourites given the form of Coventry recently. What they've obviously worked on is their defensive structure and keeping things tighter at the back, but as perhaps a consequence of that, maybe they've gone too far that way, and they've been struggling in front of goal recently. They've only scored 1 now in their last 4 matches, so while they have been keeping things tighter at the back, those forwards have looked a little bit isolated recently. You know, we go back to that game they had against Burnley at the weekend, failed to have a shot on target for that game, and with the confidence that Cardiff are building up, I think they may just edge what I'm predicting to be a tight game here. Score prediction, I'm going to go 1-0 Cardiff there. I think they might just come out on top having that home advantage. Next up then we go to Middlesbrough up against Blackburn. Middlesbrough still trying to sort out their current managerial situation. Michael Carrick was said to have been considered for the job, but that seems unlikely at this stage. A shame really, I would have loved to have seen someone like Michael Carrick coming into the Championship. But it didn't look great last time out either against Millwall, and it has the feeling that they need to sort this managerial situation sooner rather than later. Blackburn just been a really odd side this season who have struggled to build up any sort of momentum, but have consistently remained up and around the top half of the table, and their streak of winning and losing consecutive matches now stretches back to their last 11 games, which is absolutely ridiculous. An 11-game streak of win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. It wasn't a great performance in midweek. They really struggled for creativity against a Wigan side that defended well. Ultimately finished that game on their Tuesday night without a shot on target. With all that being said, Blackburn just seem to have bounce-back ability in an abundance, and with uncertainty around the Borough job at the moment, I'm going to go 2-0 Blackburn in this game, just to back the run to continue for the Rovers. Preston up against Stoke. It is the return of Alex Neil to Deepdale. Should be an interesting one. Preston, obviously, coming off the back of a great run of form, couldn't follow it up in midweek with much of a performance, really. We really had to weather the storm against Bristol City for the first 10 or so minutes of that game. Started to get into it the more that first half went on. Had a couple of openings. Second half, Reece had a half-decent chance as well when he went through, but ultimately, we weren't great in that game, and I think we would have done well to snatch a point. It looked like we were on course to get a point, but obviously Bristol City had other ideas and went on to score that late winner. Stoke have turned things around, to be fair to them, in their last couple of matches. Really impressive showing the last time out at the weekend, and the worry from a Preston perspective is I thought in midweek we were just looking a little bit jaded, a little bit tired, especially if you look at that 11 that finished on the pitch. There was a lack of quality there as well, considering some of the players we've got out and that are injured at the moment. So for a score prediction in this one, I think I'm going to back Preston to return to normality. 0-0 I'm saying for this game, but I do hope I'm proven wrong. Next then to Reading up against West Brom. Now Reading just have this unbelievable bounce back ability this season, whereby whenever they've gone ahead and lost a match, without fail, every single time this season, in the following game week, they've always followed it up with all 3 points, and a really impressive performance on top of that. And I think that's a really underrated characteristic to have, and I think it's been something that's been really desperately lacking from Reading sides in years gone by, to be honest with you. It's an interesting time to be playing West Brom, fresh after firing Steve Bruce. I think in the end that position just became untenable for him, really. But while it was undoubtedly, you know, for me, the right decision for West Brom to have gone ahead and got rid of Bruce, I still think a lot of the problems that they've run into so far this season will still be there after him, and it will take a little bit of time to go ahead and iron out those mistakes. Chance conversion being a prime example of that. You know, prior to Bruce coming in at West Brom, that was still a massive problem that they had within this squad. You know, despite all the chances they'd regularly create, and as we've seen them do this season, they'd fail to consistently hit the back of the net. That was the case again at the weekend as they played out a goalless draw with Luton. And with Reading's bounce back ability, considering they lost in a tight game last game to QPR, I think they may have this one, you know. 2-1 Reading is my score prediction for this game, but we'll see if we get a bounce after Bruce for West Brom. Next then to Bramall Lane for Sheffield United up against Blackpool. I know that Blackpool weren't on a particularly great run up until the weekend when they managed to turn things with that brilliant display against Watford. Some fantastic goals scored in that one, as well as they found their goal scoring touch once again. But even in some of those matches prior to that they had been on the losing end of, there were still some positive indicators that things were going to spin for Blackpool eventually, and right now isn't a bad time to be playing Sheffield United. For as good as they have looked at points of this season, injuries have certainly started to take their toll on this side, and you know, we saw Stoke at the weekend taking full advantage of that. I also seem to remember Blackpool having the edge in this fixture last season as well at Bramall Lane. It was Blackpool who actually left with all 3 points. A terrific goal scored, if I remember rightly, by Keshi Anderson in that fixture. And you know what? I think that Blackpool could snatch a point from this one at the very least. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game. Just think that Sheffield United aren't quite firing on all cylinders at the moment. Next then we go to Sunderland up against Wigan. Sunderland could do with getting back to winning ways after a frustrating week for them, all things considered. Will be an interesting one up against Wigan. Obviously two of the newly promoted sides going up against each other here, and two newly promoted sides who, to be fair, I think have both adapted to the league fairly well so far. Wigan finally got that monkey off their back in midweek with that first home win of the season. We've spoken about it on the channel quite a few times already, how good they've actually looked on the road, but how they've just not been able to replicate that in their home matches. Looked like a bit of a scrappy match in the end against Blackburn, but I think Wigan will take that every day of the week. You know, they just wanted to get a result in front of their home fans. Sunderland, it feels like they've got this pent-up frustration given how some of their recent matches have gone, and do you know what? Wigan flipped the script by winning at home, and I think that the same could happen here, whereby they actually might get undone on the road in this one. For some reason, I've just got a feeling that Sunderland may pull something out of the bag for this game, despite Wigan's unbelievable away record. 2-1 Sunderland, I'm saying, for this game, but could be proven wrong there. And next up then to Watford up against Norwich, two sides who at the start of the season plenty of people were backing for automatic promotion. I think they were my tipped top two before a ball had been kicked this season. Norwich are currently in the top two, Watford nowhere near at the moment. They've been miles off the pace recently. Back-to-back losses, and Slaven Bilic has so many different fires to go ahead and put out. It's unbelievable. You know, he's only 3 days in the job, but it probably already feels like 3 years for him. Imran Louza has been charged by the FA over the spitting incident against Swansea. Absolutely ridiculous from the player, but in terms of what Watford are actually going to lack without Louza now in the team, I think he's massive in terms of the creativity that he brings to that midfield trio and how they go about replacing him in that time being. Going up against the Norwich side, who will be more than keen to go ahead and get back to winning ways, having failed to win any of their last two. Obviously it was North End who got the better of them last time. Even while there were some vulnerabilities exposed of that Norwich side in that game against Preston, they still had plenty of chances, and on another day could have at least got a point, if not all three in that one, if we're being completely honest. I think that this Norwich side is a hell of a lot more cohesive at the moment and probably reliable in terms of what we've come to expect from them week in, week out. And for that reason, I think it's them that I'm backing for the away points here. 2-1 Norwich, I'm going to say, for this game. Watford, yeah, could really do with a change of momentum, but I'm not sure it comes here. Last up then, we head to Hull up against Birmingham. Hull could really do with a shift in their momentum, but it doesn't get much easier for them up against a very informed Birmingham side coming off the back of arguably their best performance of the season, 3-0 against Bristol City last time out. This Birmingham side now have only lost one of their last 6 matches and are definitely trending in the right direction. A side who isn't heading in the right direction at the moment though is Hull, and I think that a lot of their weaknesses and vulnerabilities were particularly flagged up last time out as they lost against Huddersfield. In that game, I thought that for large spells of it, they were looking like 11 individuals on the pitch, and that was always going to be the difficulty with the whole project for this season. You know, it was a lot of individual talent that was being brought into this squad, but coaching that into a cohesive unit when you are short of 1 or 2 leaders or real grafters within that squad, I think it was always going to be a little bit difficult. And in these early stages, I think we were bound to get inconsistency from Hull, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. For a score prediction in this game, I think it has to be Birmingham. I'm backing for this one. 2-0 Blues, I'm saying for this game. Well guys, there we have it. Those are my Championship score predictions heading into the weekend. I'd be very interested to get your guys' thoughts on all the action in the comments down below. How do you see your side performing this weekend? Do let me know down below. Apart from that though guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.